You have more entertainment options than any human being in history. More food, more convenience, more connection, technically. More music in your pocket than every record store combined in 1,985. More movies available tonight than a Blockbuster ever held. More people reachable in 5 seconds than your grandparents spoke to in a year. And yet, there's this feeling. It's not depression, not exactly. It's not burnout, though burnout is definitely in the mix. It's a quiet, persistent background hum of emptiness. A sense that something is missing, that with all this abundance, all this optimization, all this frictionless convenience, life should feel fuller than it does. Instead, it feels thin, like you're moving through a world that's been smoothed over, all the rough edges sanded down, all the friction removed, all the difficulty engineered away. This isn't a personal failure. It's not that you're ungrateful. It's not that you're broken. It's not that you're doing life wrong while everyone else figured it out. What you're experiencing is a structural outcome, the predictable result of a system designed to give you everything except the things that actually make life feel meaningful. Let me show you how it works. Sociologists have a word for what you're feeling. They call it anomie. It was coined by Emil Durkheim in $1,897, and it describes a state where the norms, values, and connections that once gave life structure have broken down. Disconnected, unable to locate themselves in a coherent social world. Durkheim was studying suicide rates. What he found was that people didn't break down when life was hard. They broke down when life stopped making sense, when the social fabric that gave existence meaning had unraveled. A century later, the sociologist Zygmunt Bauman gave it a modern name: liquid modernity. The idea that everything solid, relationships, careers, identities, communities, values, has melted into something fluid, temporary, and impossible to hold on to. You're not imagining the emptiness. Researchers have been tracking it for decades. Since the year 2000, rates of reported loneliness have doubled. Not crept up, doubled. Young adults now report higher levels of disconnection than retirees, the demographic that was supposed to be the lonely one. Despite more ways to communicate than ever before, people report having fewer close friends. In 1990, 33% of Americans said they had 10 or more close friends. By 2021, that number had dropped to 13%. The question isn't whether something changed. The question is what changed, and why more connection produced less actual connection. Here's the first thing that's been taken from you: community. Not the idea of community, not the simulation of community, the group chat that's mostly memes, the Discord server you never open, the Instagram comment section. Actual community, the kind where people know your name, notice when you're not there, and would help you move a couch. The political scientist Robert Putnam documented this disappearance in his book Bowling Alone. The title came from a statistic. Between 1980 and 1993, league bowling in America dropped by 40%. But the number of people bowling went up. They were just bowling alone. Putnam's argument was that this wasn't just about bowling. It was about every form of in-person social participation. Church attendance, union membership, neighborhood associations, dinner parties, family meals, all of it, declining across every demographic for decades. Then the internet arrived, and it promised to fix exactly this problem. Connect everyone, build communities without geography, give everyone a place to belong. What it actually delivered was something else. Simulated community. Interactions that activate the same neural pathways, the likes, the replies, the notifications, without providing any of the structural support. You feel connected for a moment, then the feeling fades. Because there's no couch to help move. No one checking if you're okay, no presence, just performance. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar famously identified that humans can maintain roughly 150 meaningful relationships. The Dunbar number. Not followers, not contacts. Relationships. The kind where you know how the person takes their coffee and whether they're okay today. Most people now have thousands of connections and fewer than 3 close friends. The math doesn't work, and the gap between what your brain evolved to need and what the platforms provide, that gap is where the emptiness lives. The second thing that's been taken from you is arrival, the feeling of reaching a goal and being allowed to stop. You live in a culture of endless optimization. Your phone counts your steps. Your watch tracks your sleep. Your apps measure your productivity. Your career path has levels. Your fitness has metrics. Your hobbies have side hustle potential. Everything can be improved. Everything can be tracked. Everything can be compared. And because everything can be improved, nothing is ever finished. The goalpost doesn't just move. It's on wheels. It's motorized. It accelerates away from you the moment you get close. You hit the fitness goal. The app immediately suggests a harder one. You get the promotion. LinkedIn asks you to update your headline so people know. You finish the project. The inbox fills with the next one before you've exhaled. There's a term for this, the hedonic treadmill. Humans adapt to improvements quickly. The new car becomes just the car. The raise becomes just the salary. The achievement becomes the baseline, and the baseline demands to be exceeded. But the hedonic treadmill used to have off-ramps, rituals, celebrations, moments that marked completion. Communities that witnessed your milestone and told you it mattered. Now, the moment you hit a goal, the system pings you with the next one. Because a satisfied user is a disengaged user. And a disengaged user doesn't scroll, doesn't click, doesn't buy, doesn't optimize. The system doesn't want you to arrive. It wants you to keep running. The third thing that's been taken from you, the ability to pay sustained attention to anything. Meaning requires depth. You cannot build a meaningful relationship in 15-second exchanges. You cannot understand a complex idea in a feed of headlines you scroll past. You cannot develop mastery at anything without long, uninterrupted stretches of focus. Meaning is not a bite-sized experience. It's not optimized for quick consumption. It takes time. It takes attention. It takes the willingness to stay with something long enough for it to matter. Your attention has been systematically dismantled. The average office worker now switches tasks every 3 minutes. The average person checks their phone over 90 times a day. The average video watched on social media lasts less than 30 seconds before the scroll continues. Every platform you use is optimized to fragment your attention into the smallest monetizable units, and then sell the fragments to advertisers. The researcher Gloria Mark has spent decades studying attention in the digital age. Her finding, when you're interrupted, it takes an average of 23 minutes to return to the same depth of focus you had before the interruption. 23 minutes. And you're interrupted every 3. The math is brutal, and the result is what you feel. A life experienced in fragments. Moments that could have meant something, cut short by a notification. Conversations that could have gone deeper, cut short by a glance at a screen. Ideas that could have become something, abandoned halfway through because the next thing appeared. You cannot build meaning out of fragments, and your attention has been shattered into pieces too small to hold anything important. Stay with me, because the last section is the one that actually matters. What meaning requires, why the system can't provide it, and 3 changes that don't depend on willpower. When relationships are metrics, followers, likes, engagement rates, they stop being relationships and become branding. When hobbies are side hustles, you should sell those. You should monetize that. You should build a following. They stop being rest and become work. When rest itself is optimized, the perfect sleep routine, the quantified recovery score, the biohacked morning, it stops being rest and becomes another thing to perform correctly. The philosopher Michael Sandel calls this the moral limits of markets. Some things, he argues, are degraded by being bought and sold. Friendship, love, play, rest, creativity. When you attach a price or a metric to these things, they change. They become something else. Something thinner, something that doesn't nourish the same way, You feel this. You know what it's like to have a beautiful moment and immediately feel the impulse to photograph it, post it, document it, prove it happened. And in the act of documenting, the moment itself slips away. The experience becomes content. The memory becomes a post. The feeling becomes a metric. The things that make life feel meaningful, connection, creativity, rest, play, presence, these things have no optimization function. They don't scale. They can't be monetized without being destroyed. They exist in the space that the engagement economy cannot reach. But the engagement economy has convinced you that everything should be optimized, everything should be productive, everything should be shareable. And in doing so, it has colonized the very spaces that were supposed to be the antidote to emptiness. So if emptiness is structural, if the system is designed to take the things that make life meaningful and replace them with simulations, what does meaning actually require? 3 things. And none of them can be provided by a platform. The first is agency. The felt sense that your actions matter, that your choices are real, that you are the author of your life, and not just the consumer of content other people made. Agency doesn't come from choosing between options someone else created. It comes from making things, building things, contributing to something that wouldn't exist without you. The second is connection. Not followers, not engagement, not parasocial relationships with people who don't know you exist. Actual connection, mutual, reciprocal, embodied. The kind where someone sees you, knows you, and is changed by your presence. This kind of connection requires time, vulnerability, and physical presence. It is inefficient. It is inconvenient. It cannot be scaled. And that is exactly why it works. The third is coherence. The sense that your life has a narrative, that the things you do connect to each other, that your past informs your present, that your efforts are building towards something. Coherence is what makes struggle meaningful. It's what turns suffering into story. Agency, connection, coherence. The engagement economy systematically strips all 3. It replaces agency with passive consumption. It replaces connection with simulated interaction. It replaces coherence with fragmentation. The endless scroll that has no beginning, no middle, and no end. So what do you actually do about this? 3 things. Architecture changes, not mindset shifts. Because willpower is not the answer to structural problems. First, build one real thing. Not a brand, not a side hustle, not content. One thing that exists because you made it. Something with no optimization function. Agency is not a feeling you wait for. It's a capacity you build by making things. Second, maintain one real connection. One person you see in person, regularly without screens. One conversation a week that goes deeper than logistics and entertainment. Connection is not a network. It's a practice. Third, protect one unoptimized hour. 60 minutes a week where nothing is tracked, nothing is measured, nothing is shareable. The system will fight you on this. It will suggest you use the time productively. Ignore it. Coherence requires space. Space requires protection. None of this will fix the emptiness. The structural conditions that produced it are not going away. But you don't need to fix the whole system. You just need to build a small space inside it. You were told that more would make you happier. More options, more convenience, more connection, more optimization, more content. And somehow all the more added up to less. This wasn't a failure of gratitude. It wasn't a weakness in you. It was the predictable outcome of a system that optimized for engagement and called the result a good life. The system didn't take your meaning, it just made meaning optional, and then made the alternatives more convenient. It paved over the rough ground where meaning grows and replaced it with a smooth, frictionless surface that's easy to walk on and impossible to root into. The rough ground is still there. You just have to step off the pavement, and now you know why that's harder than it should be.